Welcome to Hard Copy. I am Terry Ikumi. Now, gender-based violence is violence directed against a person because of their gender. Could be women and men, but mostly women. And that's why gender-based violence and violence against women are often used interchangeably. Also, it is widely acknowledged that most gender-based violence inflicted on women and girls are by men. And according to UNFPA, 2018 was a very challenging year for Nigerian women, especially those affected by the Boko Haram insurgency in Borno, Yobe, and Adamawa states. Now, statistically, the UNFPA says women and children constitute 87% of the displacement in the Northeast. Let's talk some more statistics now from the UNFPA. 99% of the incidents of gender-based violence were perpetrated against women and girls in 2018. 57% of those incidents were perpetrated against internally displaced persons, IDPs. And according to the report, this data is only for reported cases. The most common act of violence against women in Nigeria includes sexual harassment, physical violence, harmful traditional practices, emotional and psychological violence, socioeconomic violence, amongst others. Let's look at sexual violence now against children, which is at an all-time high, such that families no longer trust each other with their children, especially their female children. In fact, mothers almost do not trust the father of their child. Well, tonight on Hard Copy, we're discussing gender-based violence or abuse with one of the few female senior advocates of Nigeria, Victoria Awomolo, who is also the FIDA Regional Vice President, Africa, North and West. FIDA is the International Federation of Women Lawyers. You're welcome to Hard Copy.
Thank you very much.
Following my definition, beyond my definition actually, is there more to gender-based violence than I just explained?
Yes, gender-based violence happens every day, every hour, every minute. Yes, we are lucky the United Nations has their statistics, but here back at home in Nigeria, a lot of this violence against women or against gender are not reported. Families cover them up because they don't want stigmatization. They don't want their children or their girls not to be married in future. And so they keep it in the family. And like you rightly said, these abuses could be emotional, it could be physical, it could be psychological. And sexual abuses against gender does not know education, it doesn't know poverty, it doesn't know affluence. It cuts across all strata of society. It doesn't happen within the poor people or the poorest people. It happens even where you have very highly educated couples, very highly educated people. So, and that is worrisome. That why is this so prevalent at this time? Why?
Those are some of the things we'll try to answer. As
Yes.
the regional vice president of FIDA,
Yes.
you've done quite a lot of work. But before we come into those details, because I think you've seen a lot, I believe you've seen a lot.
That's right.
Growing up, because times have changed, growing
Yes,
up,
yes.
did you or anyone around you experience gender-based violence?
Yes. Growing up, because that time, a long time ago, when I was a young girl, it happened. But nobody was courageous enough to talk about it.
Happened to you or
No.
someone around you?
No, someone around me.
Okay.
But we will talk about it, while going to school or while in school. But then it was a hush-hush thing.
Why?
Because you dared not talk about it.
Which is the same thing that's happening today
Because
to an extent. I
the
believe.
perpetrator will scare them, will even say if they talked about it, they would die. Or if they talked about it, something terrible will happen.
Okay.
And so it goes on. And these young girls and boys are somewhat initiated in very terrible things and against their will. Of course, when you see a 45-year-old man sexually abusing a 2-year-old girl, for example, what is the attraction? And that makes it a very, very tough thing, a tough nut to crack. Fathers defy their daughters. Uncles come in, live within the house, and do some terrible things. Housemates, houseboys do a lot of damage.
You know, you did mention that growing up, it happened to people around you, and
Yes.
there was a difficulty with reporting
Yes.
due to discrimination, which is something that seems to still be happening now, although there's some form of exposure. Then, was there an avenue for you to even report, even if you wanted to? If you compare that to now, when it seems like there is an avenue, but people are still not taking advantage of it, or whether there is an avenue at all as we speak now, how do you marry the times then and now?
During the times then, it was not easy to report it because of fear. Even for the few ones who were courageous enough to report to their parents, to their mothers, for example, the mothers didn't believe them. The mothers wouldn't believe because they just say, "Shut up! What are you talking about?" And the girls now recoil into their shell and are not able to speak out. And when it happened between father and daughter, and the fathers do a lot of things to attract the girl, or to appease her, or to say, "Don't tell anybody, don't tell your mother, don't tell your brother." And so she lived in fear. But these days, things are changing. I cannot say they have changed totally. Things are changing because people are becoming more courageous to speak out that nothing will happen to me. And when we go out there and we sensitize them, and we do our advocacy, we tell them, even if they make you swear on anything, nothing will happen to you, because the perpetrator is the only person who is enjoying, if he's enjoying it at all, that abuse. The victims are suffering; they suffered in silence, but there are still a lot of them out there who are not speaking.
One of the most reported cases of gender-based violence is sexual, and that's something I think we will dwell on a lot here. But I need you to speak on the other forms of violence against women.
Like the emotional violence.
Yes, because it's not something that many people are aware
Or
of.
psychological violence.
Exactly, yes.
It happens, let me use this scenario of husband and wife. When a husband deliberately, or for whatever reason, forbids the wife to work, she does not have an income, and uses that to oppress her. You are a useless person. You don't bring anything to the house. Even if you want to buy salt, I provide anything. If you, with the children's school fees, don't contribute anything. To the house rent, don't contribute anything. Whereas she doesn't have the means to contribute anything, in actual fact. So the man uses that to now oppress her, to debase her. So then she will start developing a low self-esteem. And she can't, within herself, she becomes too weak to be able to even go out or discuss it with other people because she's ashamed. And this leads to other psychological illnesses because she wouldn't talk, she will not discuss with any other person, even her children. She will live in fear, even in her own house. And so that is emotional, psychological torture or abuse, as we call it.
As a senior advocate of Nigeria, one of the 22 women, I believe, out of 550 senior advocates, 548 senior advocates of Nigeria. How was it for you rising to become a senior advocate of Nigeria?
Well, for me, my story is peculiar because I started out as a science teacher. I had a degree in chemistry, BSc chemistry, in 1981. And I got married to a lawyer.
So what I'm trying to find out is, in a pool of men, how was it easy for you to rise through the ranks to become a senior advocate of Nigeria?
Yes, I was luckier.
Luck?
Yes.
No discrimination whatsoever?
No discrimination, because my husband is a senior advocate of Nigeria.
Do you think other women face discrimination?
They face discrimination. Many chambers don't want to employ women because of the peculiarities of women. When you get married, maybe if you are pregnant, you want to take leave, or you want to take your children to school, you want to take one permission or the other, and it affects their work. And so, for me, by the time I became a lawyer, my children were already grown. They were already in the secondary schools. And so it was a bit easier for me to move around. And no lawyer will want to aspire to the highest position in the legal profession if he or she will just sit down in one place. You have to go around. You have to go around the different jurisdictions. There are cases that will take you to Enugu.
So it's a difficult field.
So it's difficult for women on the average to make it. I said it in a paper I delivered some time ago, that more ladies get all their awards at the law school. More girls get first class at the law school. But shortly after that, you don't find them again. They can't go through the rigors of legal practice.
I need us to be clear on something.
Yes.
Is it a decision of the women not to further their law career based on personal discomfort, or is it the system that doesn't allow them practice?
The system gives equal opportunities to men and women in legal practice. But when you now sit down to look at the costs, to look at the conveniences, to look at how well you want to, how fast you want to make it, the women look at other options. They go into the ministries, they go, the judiciary affords very rigorous, but at least more women do better in the judiciary these days, and you find that many of them there. But in the core legal practice, it's not easy. And in the legal profession, where equal opportunities are given to the men and the women, for a woman to rise up there takes a longer time.
Do you think that women are given the same equal opportunities across all the jobs? Or do you think that there's some form of discrimination?
There is some form of discrimination.
In your work as regional vice president of FIDA,
yes.
You have spoken with a lot of women.
Yes.
Have you come across cases that appear to show discrimination against women, work-based discrimination?
In work-based scenarios, you find that a woman has to work twice as hard as the man to be able to, even to be noticed. Because there's this bias, this prejudice that she has children, she doesn't have time, while the men will stay in chambers till 9 p.m., for example, 10 p.m. The lady will have closed around 4 p.m. And so the seniors believe they are not contributing much, and they're just tolerating them.
Do you think, but considering that we have gender-based violence at an all-time high.
Yes.
The UNFPA reports showed that 2018 was a terrible year for Nigerian women.
Yes.
What do you think played a role in that? Is it culture? Is it the environment?
There's a combination of factors. Culture is one of them, which places a woman at the lower rung of the ladder. Culture that thinks a girl cannot be better than the boy. And so we treat our girls, we are saying, oh, when you grow up, just go and marry and go into somebody else's house. But things are changing. Also, the rigor of work also places a lot of inhibition or some hindrances on the way of the women who want to make it to the top. Also, you now have that to be able to make it in any profession, you must have mentors. You must go all out there. You must be found in relevant places at the right time. You must acquire training. But once a girl is married and she has a husband who does not understand or who is not interested in her growth, how much growth can she make in the workplace?
When we come back, we'll talk more about sexual violence, which has a very high percentage in terms of rating,
yes.
which according to the UNFPA. When we come back, we'll talk more about that and the relevant laws that should be checking some of these vices but isn't. Stay with us, we'll be right back. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, I'm speaking with one of the few female senior advocates of Nigeria, Victoria Awomolo, on gender abuse for women. We're talking about some of these, the different forms of abuse before the break, and we should look more at sexual violence, which is the most reported amongst them all. And one thing to look out for in terms of sexual violence is to look at how the law views that offense and if the punishment meted out is adequate. When you look at the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act, what do you see in terms of how it can help curb sexual violence against women?
When the Violence Against Persons and Prohibition Act 2015 was enacted, and I read it, I was very happy, because for the first time in Nigeria, we now have a comprehensive law that deals squarely with the issues of gender-based violence. And the sections are specific, they are not too laborious to understand, and the punishment is there. And that VAB Act, as we call it, deals with violence in public and private life, and missed out punishment, and also goes further to make provisions for compensation for victims.
But the thing about that is that some of the persons I've spoken with have said that for a few reasons. One of them is that that law is practically only applicable in the FCT.
Yes.
It has not been domesticated in all the states.
Yes.
Another thing is the level of punishment for all these offenses.
Some states are domesticating these laws already, but it's applicable here in the FCT. And so that's what we are using to combat this. Once anybody is arrested, once a report is made, even NAPTIP uses it now for all the offenses related to abuse of children.
You mentioned reported cases to the police, and I know that during your time as your reign as FIDA Regional Vice President, you've taken up a few cases, quite a number of cases, if I may say that.
Yes.
Would you say that in your interaction with the police and how they handle rape cases, that they've been able to handle it well? Or do you think that there are areas that they need extra training for, specifically with rape cases?
With rape cases and considering the endemic nature of it now, I believe that our policemen need more training. And our FIDA branches are doing a lot in this area. About 2 months ago, I was in New York with the FIDA Uyo Law Week. And they gave an award to a policeman at their dinner who had been working with FIDA, and at any case they reported to the police station, this man would do all within his power to make sure that the perpetrator is charged to court. And they were very happy about it, unlike before, when an accused person can just bribe his way out. Things have changed, even with the police, but I'm still advocating that the police still need more training on the laws that we have in our lands.
There's a sex offenders register now that some states are trying to domesticate, and NAPTIP is also trying to come up with that.
Yes.
Do you think that's going to be effective? Do you think it will help?
It will go a long way to stem the tide. I want to commend the Ekiti State that a man's name had been entered into that register now. His pictures are all over. And anybody who sees him, he will go to jail. He will pay for his crime, and his name will go into that register once convicted of the crime. It is a good thing, and it means that we are being open about it. We are saying it is not enough to go to jail, your name will also come into a register for life.
Most of the cases we've heard in recent times are people who practically have no public life, so they couldn't care less whether or not they got the names. Let's say people who don't really have names or care less about their names.
But they have families.
Well,
they have children. They have wives. They have wives.
Let me read this stat to you. So 99% of the incidents of gender-based violence were perpetrated against women and girls in 2018. 5% of those incidents were perpetrated against IDPs. That's one challenge. And according to the report, this data is only from reported cases. How do we get more women and girls to come forward and report, bearing in mind the difficulty or the challenge that IDPs face as well?
Well, the IDP's case is very pathetic. These are people who have been dislodged from their homes, now put together in a shelter or somewhere and to be cared for by government, only for them to be sexually abused again. And they can't run away, they don't even have anywhere to run to. That makes it a very serious issue.
As FIDA, do you work with them to see if you could help them come
Yes,
forward?
we've gone around some IDPs at the branch level here in Abuja, FIDA Abuja branch. We've gone to the IDPs, we've sensitized them, we've told them if anything happens, we are here, this is our telephone number, we have a desk, and also the police has a gender desk also that where they could report to. And so we are working with them at branch levels here, even at the national level. We have the national, FIDA Nigeria has grants that enables us to go into the interland and the IDPs to advocate on this issue. And we are getting results because every day people throng our FIDA office, our FIDA desk, and our people are engaged. They go to court, they do all manner of things, we defend them.
Apart from the laws that already exist in, say, the VAP and the criminal code that to an extent fight against discrimination and abuse, what other form of legislation would you like to see that you believe would really be effective?
In fact, in this area, I will because of the rampant cases of rape, I would suggest that we have a comprehensive law on the issue of rape. You understand me? Now, the issue of rape, we have a comprehensive law on rape, not just a section or two sections. Let us broaden it out. You understand? And make the proof not too difficult to prove. And VAP Act has opened the gate for us.
And I believe, speaking of proof, that's where the police comes in, because they need to help you out with the proof as well.
They need to help in the proof. They need to come up with the witnesses. They need to help the justice system. I don't believe special courts should be created for rape cases. The irregular courts are vast in criminal jurisprudence and can handle them. But what we need to advocate more is training of policemen, helping them to know what they need to prove, and helping them to know that thorough investigations have to be done before you charge it to court. Otherwise, you lose the case.
Before we go, there's a case contained in, but still a crime captured in the VAP Act of 2015 that I don't think many people are aware of, and that's performance of female circumcision or genital mutilation.
Yes.
The lack of awareness could be responsible. We talked about culture earlier. And this law says that a term of imprisonment not exceeding 4 years or a fine not exceeding 200,000 naira or both. Is that enough to discourage people from carrying out?
That is it. But for me, for now, that is enough. But it could be harder. But like I said, you see, the problem with us in Nigeria, once a law comes out, we criticize it, even without using it. Let us apply this one. Let us convict as many offenders as possible.
Who are we looking up to do that?
The government, NGOs like FIDA.
I'd like to say a very big thank you to you for finding time to come speak with us today, and good luck with your good work.
Thank you.
Well, that's Hard Copy. Send feedback to hardcopy@channelstv.com, for Twitter @CTV Hardcopy. I'm Terry Ikumi. Goodbye.